Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, I've spoke about it a lot, but I've talked to people recently. Because we're doing tournaments, and I get to talk to a lot of the public fishing people. I always ask them questions that I think that maybe all of you and of course me not only would be interested in, but can learn from. And one of the things that I find most people that maybe are somewhat casual fishermen, most people are using treble hooks. And one of the lures that seem to be very, very popular, and I'm telling you this for a number of reasons. Number one, this lure might become one of your favorites as well. But I was talking to a guy that was hooking up internet for us with Spectrum. And his name was Marty, just a fabulous young guy. And as I talked more with Marty, I realized that he likes to fish like most of us do. And so I asked him, where does he go and so forth, and it led into what he uses. He was telling me about all these different places that he fishes on the Racket River, including the impoundments like Rainbow Reservoir and Stark and Blake and all these different places that lie between Colton and Seavy's Corners when you head up to Tupper Lake. And he says the one bait he always uses, and he says the only thing I use, he says, is a Mepps spinner with a number 5 blade, and it has a brownish bucktail on it. And he even got his phone out and showed me the exact bait. Now, he's fishing for bass and pike and walleye. And I've talked to a lot of other visitors that come here, and that's the one lure that they use is a Mepps spinner. So a Mepps spinner, and some of you listening might not even know what I'm talking about, but it's an inline spinner with a blade and, a treble hook on it. The disadvantages to using a Mepps spinner to me are because of that treble hook and because it's heavy. If you don't keep it moving at a certain speed, depending on the water you're fishing, it's going to snag into stuff, into logs, into rocks, and so forth, and you can lose a lot of them. A big disadvantage, though, for me in trying to conserve our fish populations is that treble hook, and that can always be a problem. But then, as I've talked to these people, I've thought back, why are you surprised? I'm thinking to myself, why are you surprised that this is their favorite lure? And I think back to when my mom and dad moved to North Lawrence when I was a kid going to college in Ohio, and how when I came back here to our new home and discovered the Deer River, the one thing I discovered was a fabulous fishing here. And what did I use? Every time I went out as a 19-year-old kid, it was just before I went into the Navy, every time I'd go out, all I used was a Mepps spinner, and it was usually a size 3 blade. A 3 blade is smaller than a 5 blade. It isn't as big a reflection and offering in the water. But it might be something that you ought to look at closer. I know some of the military guys that I've become friends with that used to be part of my show, Fishing Behind the Lines, and now have really discovered fishing. Their number one, it seems, favorite lure, again, now not everybody, but most of them, is a Mepps spinner. And that's been around since, I guess, before I was a kid. So it's an age-old bait that even today can be one of the best things that you can put in the water. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.